Hi everyone, happy December. We're almost at the end of our course, and I thought I'd do a quick overview of the course analysis assignment and just show you what I did and when I took this course 3 years ago. Hopefully it will help you just to give you a bit of an orientation to the expectations. So right now I'm just looking at the course analysis assignment rubric, and it has, of course, the overall purpose, which is to analyze how one of your courses addresses on all the different aspects of diversity that we've discussed in this course. So for our purposes, we're going to look at each of the 5 grouped themes that have been presented by each of you as the core themes discussed in this course. And I'll show you how you can do that in your assignment. Please take a look at the rubric. You'll notice that it follows the same kind of format that we've been using, and asks you to talk about what the implications are of that diversity topic. So some potential ways that it affects the teaching and learning in your course for your students. And then also when you're analyzing the different course elements, when we talk about course elements here, we're talking about all different aspects of the curriculum. So from the overall design to the teaching and learning methods, the assessments, and so on. And then finally, your report should be clear and coherent, and it should have few or no errors. It should be thorough. And if you'd like, you can do a written report like the one I'm going to show you, or you can use some kind of an alternate format. But if you are choosing an alternate format, you want to be sure that you are going to actually meet all of the requirements for this assignment. So do, if you're not sure, chat with me and I can help you make that decision. Okay, so let's take a look at my assignment. So this was in December of 2012. You'll notice right away that I've used a title page. I'm really used to doing this, but it's just very routine for me, and I do follow APA format. But for many of you, you won't be used to using APA format or a formal report like this. It's really not necessary. What you do want to make sure is that it is thorough, it's persuasive, and it's coherent. So use some kind of an organizational format. Use headers, use references, and make sure that it's coherent. So when I started this paper, what I did is I used a bit of an opening discussion to introduce the paper to the reader. And so I talked about some of the reasons why this was important to me, why the topic of diversity was important to me, some of the key questions that I wanted to answer. Do I plan my lessons to meet diverse learning styles or to meet diversity in terms of gender, maturity, or any other topic? And then also it is helpful to talk about some of your personal values and beliefs about teaching and learning diverse learners. And this will help you when you're going into your next course in professionalism, if you choose to do that, because it does serve as sort of a foundational statement for your teaching philosophy, which you'll be doing in that course. You can see I'm using paragraphs and I'm using, again, the APA format, but you don't have to follow it exactly the way that I've done. So start by doing a bit of an introduction about your course. So in my assignment, I was analyzing professional praxis, which is a first-year course in the Collaborative Bachelor of Nursing program. And it is a course that is fairly foundational and talks to students about issues like professional communication, therapeutic communication, interview techniques, and so on. So it has quite a number of really deep topics for students. So in fact, it was a perfect course for me to choose because we are addressing things like personal values and beliefs within this course. So it was kind of a nice fit. The very first section that I have in my paper is on the topic of gender and orientation. This was the first theme that our course addressed, so that when I took it. However, in your course, the first theme that we addressed was marital and family status. So that's the first theme that you could start with in your paper. And then you want to follow the list of course themes, the student presentations, in other words, and analyze them. So the very first thing that you want to do is answer the question, how has this this particular aspect of diversity affected teaching and learning in the course? And what are some possible impacts on teaching and learning? So in my case, when I was analyzing the issue of gender and orientation, I really wanted to talk about the fact that in nursing, it is a female-dominated profession. So often when men are looking at articles or stories, or even the examples that we give in class, they're often about female nurses, and they often don't portray the male voice. So there were a lot of opportunities for me to improve the sort of the repertoire of stories and examples, and also to ensure that the language used in the course was very inclusive. So this was a really important and actually probably one of the most critical themes that I wanted to analyze. Throughout the paper, when I was doing my analysis, I did reference research, which you should do as well. And I also referenced student presentations. So this is one of the presentations by one of our groups. And then what I did is I took a look at all of the different teaching and learning practices that were inclusive or could be more inclusive regarding this particular theme. Now, I chose to do this in a fairly condensed way. I didn't organize it using a header, but one option that you might want to consider if it helps you is to look at this by all the different components of a course. So, for example, you could look at it from the perspective of the course design, the overall course design, the teaching practices, the content, the assessment practices, and so on. So you could sort of organize it based on those key components. And that might help you if you're looking for a way to sort of keep it in a format that follows the rubric quite closely. So definitely talk about all the things that you're doing really well. And then talk about the areas that students are struggling, that you feel students are not getting as inclusive approach as possible. So in this case, I was analyzing how, for the socioeconomic theme, which was, again, one of the themes of my course, how students really struggle to afford their textbooks and supplies, and, what strategies could we use to make sure that students have ability to still be successful in those first few weeks if they're not able to afford it in the first few weeks of the course, and then also to help them throughout the semester if they are having difficulty affording the textbooks. Nursing textbooks are really, really expensive. So again, for each theme, talk about how the course format, how even perhaps the learning outcomes, the policies, the teaching methods, and the evaluations are or could be more inclusive of each diversity theme. And again, don't feel that you have to be totally locked into these examples. For example, I did do an analysis of the textbook and how it wasn't inclusive for my course. So again, as you go through, you're going to organize this according to each of the key themes that we addressed in our course. And then, sorry for the long scroll, but eventually you're going to have a summary and conclude this. And in my case, I really reflected on how this also ties into Durham College mission, vision, and values, as well as some of the policies and procedures that it also sort of relates to. And then I talked about the importance of universal design for learning principles. So that's sort of how I concluded my paper. And you might have a different perspective on that. Thanks very much for watching this short video. Please send me any questions you have, and I look forward to seeing your assignments by December 14th. If you need any help, don't hesitate to ask.